So what are you doing in the market? How are you using your technologies and systems to ensure the fact that number one feels like number one and you continue to focus on the thing that they want to pay for, not the thing they're paying for? Those are the kinds of things we need to talk about today. Is that fair? That's huge. The reason this is important is most of our companies today are too busy trying to be rivers than wells. Are you with me on that? They're too busy trying to flow out to places that are so shallow that they're not going to make any money anyway, while they could be boring deeper like a well into the accounts they've got that make a difference by bringing products that they haven't brought there before and finding out how they can convergently supply people with stuff. I rushed to the door. I felt bad. I opened the door, and standing in front of me is a guy 6'4", high water pants, hairy tie, white socks, and a zit in the middle of his forehead. Couldn't have been a day over 24 years old. Now, I've been around a long time, do you understand? And the first impressions are tough on me. That means I'm going to decide whether you know something, whether you got authority. In the first 4 or 5 minutes, I'm going to be with you, which gives me the interest of spending more time with you. And all I could do is look at the zit. And it was like Mount Vesuvius. As a matter of fact, I almost lunged forward to help him with it, and then realized where the projectile was going to go. Am I visual enough for some of you? But I felt bad, and his name was Tony, and I said, Tony, come on in, sit down. I feel terrible about that. I know you heard what I said. He said, oh, Mr. Wininger, it's all right. I'm just happy to spend a few minutes with you because my manager told me about you. You're one of the top people in the field. You've run a business that's been successful, and I probably don't know anything that'll help you out. I said, oh, Tony, I love you, thanks. And I'm almost hugging this guy already. I said, what questions do you have? He said, could I ask a personal question? I said, absolutely. He said, what's the one thing you learned in selling that changed your life? Well, that took about 45 minutes. But I love Tony because Tony opened his pad and he started taking notes. And I'd say something, he'd go, wow, that's good. And he'd write it down. And then I'd say something else. He'd say, wow, that's amazing. And he'd write it down. And he said, and I said, you got any more questions for me? And he said, can I ask you one more? And he kept asking one more. And it's now 6:30. And we started at 4 o'clock. And then my personal line rang, and it was Lynn. I've been married to her for 27 years. She said, where are you at? I said, I'm with somebody who loves me. And then Tony felt bad. And I said, what do you feel bad about? He said, I'm taking up your personal time. I said, Tony, I don't get this interest at home. I don't arrive at home with people with pads in their hands of our 4 children lined up in front of the house by size and age, asking me how I changed the world and how I made life so easy for them. Do you understand? You're the best thing that's happened to me in a month and a half. And he said, well, you know, I ought to ask you something about my product. I said, you go right ahead. He said, when you buy office paper, where do you buy it? I said, well, you know, Tony, I don't do that here. Elizabeth does that. But I think we buy it at Office Max. He said, seriously? I said, yes. He said, you're joking me, aren't you? You really don't spend that kind of money on copier paper, do you? I said, well, no, I was joking. He said, you know, because companies like yours can't afford to pay that much for that paper. I said, I thought we got a deal over there. I thought we were saving money by going to Office Max. He said, oh, no, you're spending more on that. I said, seriously? He said, yes, you have hard cost and soft cost in that acquisition. I said, tell me more about that. He said, how do you get that paper from Office Max? I said, well, Elizabeth goes and gets it. Oh, he said, seriously? He said, I'll bet you pay her a lot of money. I said, well, I pay her a sizable amount. He said, you can't afford to have her go to get that paper because you have to add the time that she spends into the cost of the paper. And then when does she have to go, he said. I said, well, when we run out. He said, you run out? I said, yes, we do. And he said, you can't afford that cost either. I said, what cost is that? He says, delay of customer satisfaction because you can't get done what you've committed to do in your business, and you're in a premium business serving premium clients. He said, where are your office supplies? I said, back there. This is no joke. The kid got up and headed down the hallway. Didn't even say, can I go there? We're headed down the hallway, and I'm following him. It's the craziest thing, and he's leading me. And I'm macho, guy in business. I'm going to watch what he does. He's got my attention, and he's opening doors to see. I said, it's right ahead of you. He went in there, and he went, "Ooh. How long have you been in here?" I said, well, we moved in about 8 months ago. He said, whoa, you need a little Tony help here. I said, okay. What are you going to do? He said, well, first of all, that goes down here, this goes over here, and I can't believe you're actually buying that stuff. If it's all right with you, I'll put together a custom acquisition document in my database. He pops out his Dell computer, opens it up, and he's got my name on there, and he starts barcoding stuff for my shelving. He says, Tony does 3 things for you. Number 1, I lower your costs while I'm charging you a fair price. Number 2, I ensure the fact that you never run out. And number 3, if you don't use it, I pick it up. I am seamless supply. I said, how much does that cost me? He said, it'll save you about 10% of what you're currently spending, because I deal in the reduction of cost, not the reduction of price. And for 5 years, he supplied everything we needed, taught my people how to use office supplies, taught us how to run the place in the back office, because Tony's sharp. Because Tony learned something. It's not what you sell, it's what the customer buys. Tony understood it's not what he knows, it's what I want to know that makes a difference in our relationship. And most of us in selling are too busy talking about what we have to sell them, not what they're buying, to make a difference in a lousy stinking market. You smell like, look like, act like, and speak like every other sales rep in the marketplace, and we can't figure out why in a market like this we're not getting any attention. Do you understand me? And that's what Tony did so well. I didn't care about office supplies. I cared about cost containment. And my friends, cost is nothing to do with price. Do you understand? And we need to learn that. And we need to focus on that. And we need to educate our customers on the difference between that. Some of us in this room sell a product that's a development product, and we let them expense that item. And today's marketplace wants to reduce expenses. And so what we do is we frame our product around an expense rather than development, and they're not going to spend any money on expenses because they're reducing their expenses. So the smart people in this marketplace, salespeople, will reframe their product around development, and that's business growth. And the best companies today want to know about business growth.